a good thing.
Very
Make sure
good.
you're recording the correct devices.
Test.
Testing. 1, 2, blah blah. Stop. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good to go.
Test.
We are live. This is episode 147. Yeah, 147. Our guest today, Jen and I, and Dan, who you may remember from the Gunship Roundtable and for the Future Bomber Roundtable. Yep, we'll be beginning the actual show shortly. We're just doing setup, final setup. Yeah,
Test.
Got distracted. Anyway.
Test.
Everyone
Yay.
check their headphone volume. Make sure you're not leaking.
No, I'm good.
All right, let me just speak loudly to see if I can hear myself. Testing. No, that's pretty good. All right.
All right. Cool.
All right. Anything else, or shall we get this show on the road?
Let's do it. Let's get this thing crack-a-lackin'.
All right.
Okay. Ready to start on Audacity?
Yep. Start
I'm recording.
Okay. Thank you. Red, you're recording.
Yep.
Chill's recording.
Mm-hmm.
I will be recording. Let's go.
All right. Going in 5. Oh, I don't have a title this time, but that's all right. We'll just get going. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that's got a lot of guts coming here after what we pulled. This is episode 147, being recorded on Wednesday, June 18th, 2014. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today are Dunadai, Dan, and Red, and longtime listeners will have a hint as to what's coming up because of that. So, Dunadai, what you been up to?
Hey guys, I've been doing a little bit of everything. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of real life stuff coming up, so I haven't had that much game time. So I've played around with the casino event, and it doesn't feel like a 2-month event to me at all. It feels more like a 2-week. You just play it for a couple of days, and then that's it. Yeah, pretty much done.
Okay.
There's not only too much fun you can have spinning the dials.
Right.
But no rank amount for me so far, and only about 400,000 credits in, I guess.
Mhm.
Also been playing the D10, been taking up some of Bill's tips and making some good money, but then they released that new Star Cluster Nightlife pack, and I ended up buying a bunch of armor kits. So I've got to say that I really love that Tula Chords armor set and Manzalore the Ultimate. The armor sets really look good, so they're coming up with the goods now.
Nice.
And I also wanted to say I've took some of Pez's advice from last week and started playing around with the dummy on the ship, doing the Parsec pop-outs, and I didn't even know Parsec could do the pop-outs, so that's been a great help to bring my DPS up a little bit. And of course, GSF. Where would we be without GSF? So actually, the last couple of weeks I've been leveling my Sork, got from 16 to 53 via GSF and class missions,
Nice.
and got a couple of those ships mastered. That's a real nice way to do it, and I did do one of the double XP weekends that way, but it's not a beneficial way of doing Galactic Starfighter to level. And then the only other thing I did notice is in that new cartel pack, there's possibly a hint that maybe there's a planet other than Manan on there with a Dathomir Rancor. So maybe that's the first pet or vehicle that I've ever seen in the game that's actually had a planet's name attached to it. So hints of the future, who knows?
We'll see.
But that's about it for me.
All right. Dan, how about your week?
Oh, I've had a pretty good week. Of course, I only play Galactic Starfighter anymore these days, and I was out sick, so I've just about mastered the new bomber. I'm like 8,000 requisition points away from having that done.
Wow.
Been having a lot of fun with that. I like the new bomber. I'll get into that later.
Okay.
Last weekend when I was out Friday night trying to get some interviews for my podcast, Gainesville Metal,
Mm-hmm.
this is funny. I was about ready to give up and leave, and then one of the singers from one of the other bands come over to talk to me, and so I go ahead and record him, and come to find out that he's like a bit of a kindred spirit. He started out doing theater stuff too, but now he has a website called Headbang and Button Mash, and we're two metalheads that love gaming.
Nice.
He's out on the road right now, but when he gets back into town, we're going to try and do some cooperative promotional stuff. You know, he likes SWOTOR. He said he played. He couldn't remember what server he was on at the time, though.
Mhm.
So I hope to do some stuff with that, and maybe we'll get a little extra promotion that way out on his website. It's pretty nice.
Oh,
But
sweet.
yeah, that was the cool thing that happened to me over the weekend. Other than that, like I said, all I play is Galactic Starfighter, and got that bomber just about finished.
Excellent. All right, Red, how about your week?
I definitely continued with the event and have now at this point, it was at about 1.2 million. I have now gotten Ranker. The 60 certificate it takes in order to purchase every single item off of the vendor at least once.
Wow.
And it was actually, I actually got the Ranker before I got finished getting all the certificates. So as I continued to get them, I'd buy 20 coins and then spin. Well, click. Just trying to get those last certificates. I only needed one, so I'm sitting there waiting, and then it was probably 5 minutes before I finally got my 60th. I finally got a second mount. So after all of that, to get 60 certificates, I only got 3 mounts out of it. But I'm happy because I'm done. I got the Han Solo blasters. They are really, really cool. They're, I think, the closest thing to the Han Solo blasters in the game right now. So I got 2 of those for my gunslinger.
Sounds right.
And I have a slicing money tip vein. I have no idea what that is. So moving on. I did discover once I finally got my own Ranker, I had been totally faked out by other people in the game because I would see, I'm sitting there at the terminal and I'm clicking my 4 machines over and over and over again and dozing and falling asleep because that's how I roll. And people would get onto their Ranker, and I'd be like, that's what I'm working for. Doesn't look all that great, but I need a Ranker from this event because I need the achievements. Which really, after I'd spent 700,000 or 800,000, it really was the only thing that kept me going for it was the achievement. It wasn't even the Ranker itself.
Right.
But anyway, I got totally faked out. All these people that were rolling around on their Rankers, they were rolling in the cartel coin one. The brown one. I didn't realize that the Ranker from the event is the black one, or dirty black. But I actually liked the event one quite a bit better than that cartel coin one. So I was happy to grab that. And otherwise, yeah, GSF. Tons and tons of GSF as well. It's been so pleasing to be able to get money from it, especially during this stupid event. Between queues, you can't even spend how many you can buy with the credits that you're getting out of it. So,
Nice.
as a result, I think I mentioned last week I'd gotten my 7th ship mastered. So, I ended up consuming every single one of my tokens to do that. But then on the ships that I'd already mastered, I ended up going back to the Nova Dive and really streamlined it and got rid of. I built it completely wrong when I first played it. Now that I've actually got good slots for my scout, I'm really, really, really happy with it. It has. Cool. I was never a fan of the scout, and the Nova Dive in particular. I did enjoy my flash fire for its purpose, but the Nova Dive has really grown on me, so that's been a lot of fun. Otherwise, oh yeah. So 2 nights ago, I did hop onto Harbinger to do some PvP, and no one in the guild would talk to me. So I called up a friend and grouped up with them, and it was probably best that they didn't talk to me because I really have no clue how to play a Marauder. None. I went in there, and I jumped on people, and then just kind of clicked buttons looking really confused and spinning in circles.
So I think I might go ahead and try and play on the Harbinger, with Utini Rage there a little bit more, just so that I can feel good. I have no freaking clue, because I don't have a Sentinel, and that's my only Marauder, and he's been on that server doing nothing forever, and I, I need to learn to play. I was trying to play Carnage, the second tree.
Mhm.
Wow, just oblivious. No notion to what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Okay.
hopefully I can group up with some of you Teeny Rage guys and have people teach me what the heck I am supposed to be doing.
I like the middle tree, but yeah, it takes a little getting used to.
Yeah, I mean, I only got to spend half an hour or an hour at it, and by the end of it, I was at least using abilities. But yeah, I need some training. And it's been so long since I hit 55 that, without actually leveling up another character just to, do that learning process for abilities, I'm going to have to sit down with somebody who tells me what to do. And that's it.
All right, Tio, how about your week?
All right, let me just check my volume levels. How's that for everyone? I was just tweaking it. Sound all right?
Sounds good here.
All right. Okay, let's start with rating, as I usually do. On day 1, which is our 8-man, we attempted Nightmare Nephra, given that with Game Update 2.8 the Nightmare power buff has been removed. On our first attempt, we did wipe with just 9,000 hit points left. Bloody hell. But then, of course, we got him on the second attempt. We discovered that even without the Nightmare power buff, the bosses do have Nightmare health, and this is apparently intended. So that's nice, and actually I prefer that. So with the removal of the Nightmare power buff, it just means the bosses are doing less damage, but you still actually have to have the DPS to do it within the end range.
Right.
Then after that, we switched to Hard Mode Dread Palace and actually took down Bestia for the first time. In fact, it was remarkably easy. I think the various small upgrades to our gear and a little bit of tuning of our various rotations, at least partially due to Pez and his help tips from last week, probably helped with that. And actually there was another change in Nightmare. There was another change in Dread Palace in Bestia that we noticed. There are now yellow circles appearing where they used to be these purple circles that did lots of damage if you didn't get out of them, but they're now a bright yellow and really easy to see. The other ones, especially if they were dropped in the water around the throne thing, were really hard to spot. So that's a really nice change. I don't remember reading about that, but it's good. And then we worked on Hard Mode Tyrants, the second boss, the one with the disappearing floor, which you've never seen in Hard Mode, and we certainly were getting the hang of it, but it's our short session, so we didn't really have much time. So overall, doing well. Took down a new boss, and, well, 2 if you count Nephron Nightmare, even though it was without the Nightmare power buff. Anyway, on day 2 rating, that's our 16-man. We went back in Hard Mode Dread Fortress, and we cleared one of 3. We cleared the first 3, and it was quite easy. I'm not sure what happened the first time we tried it, but the grip was solid. We just mowed through it. And then we were up to Corrupt to 0, and we discovered that the tactics that we were using in our 8-man didn't really work in 16, so we're just having to readjust things a little bit, and hopefully we'll try again this week. Now, in the Suvada gambling event, let's see, I did do quite a bit of that, spent a few 100,000 credits, I gotta say, and what did I get? I think I'm up to maybe 28 or 29 golden certificates. I have not got the Rancor. I did get the Black Speeder, and I got all the achievements except for the Rancor one. I did blow up the machine twice within 10 minutes of each other, which was just bizarre, but that's the way the random number generator works. So that was fun. I've also actually been playing quite a lot, working on the Lawmaster achievement with Ari. Now, she got the Datacron Master as well, not long after me last week, so we're both progressing with that. She's actually ahead of me on the Lawmaster. But we discovered that one thing you need is to complete the planetary arc on Corellia, on both sides, both factions. And I discovered that even though I've got the 5 55s, on every single one of them, I have actually done part of the planetary arc on Corellia and then abandoned the mission. Now,
Ah.
yeah, I talked to customer support, and it turns out that you're kind of stuffed. Now, we worked through, Ari had a character that hadn't actually started it, the world arc on the Republic side. So I grouped with her on my Sentinel, and at every step of the way, she tried to actually share the mission with me as she progressed through the world arc, but at no point would it let me be shared. So, and according to customer support, I'm just SOL, basically.
Oh, because there's no place you can go to get the start of it again?
Correct.
Oh.
I've talked to every single mission giver that she did as she went through the whole arc from beginning to end. At no point was I able to get it myself. So yeah, don't abandon
Oh, no.
arcs like that, kids. And so what I'm going to have to do is level something, either my gunslinger who's level 30 or my shadow who's 21 to the minimum of level 44, and then I'll get someone to run through with me or whatever. So yeah,
Oof.
handy tip, don't abandon the arc because you will not get it back.
Or just don't start it if you think you might abandon it.
Exactly. Yeah, and finally, to fund my gambling efforts, I have actually been doing the dailies. So I unlocked Oricon on my Sage, who I should mention, he had been my healer all the way along. So I've got my Guardian tank, my Sentinel DPS, which is my main ops character, and my healer Sage. For the first time, I've respec'd him as DPS. I went the middle tree, TK, telekinetic, which is a hell of a lot of fun, I've got to say. Maybe it's just because I've never played it pre-Game Update 2.8 because I know they took a lot of the RNG out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but wow, it's so cool. Now, I was supposed to help out the Templars, but we had maintenance on Wednesday night, so that didn't go ahead, but he was ready anyway. And so I did dailies on him, including soloing the Black Hole level 50 Heroic 4. That was a bit of a challenge, even with Treek. And speaking of Treek, I finally moved all of my best geared Treek stuff onto Legacy Armor and weapons, which means that I can quickly mail them between my various characters, all of whom have Treek.
Okay.
And so it was a bit expensive to like pull all the mods out and stick them into the legacy stuff, but it's so worth it. So worth it. So I effectively have a well-geared Treek on all my characters. You just need your 2 implants and your earpiece, which aren't obviously able to be moved in a legacy fashion. Yeah, so lots of dailies. I did Oricon, Ilum, and Black Hole a couple of times. So yes, I think I'm roughly even in terms of the gambling. I haven't spent more than I've made, but it's good to do dailies again, actually. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Jill.
All right. First, a shout out to the chat room. Ben_B55 is here. Big Poppy Jones is here. Caligari, Ferris Tillin, Gaddick Teague of the Unnamed Swotor Podcast. Gas Guy is here. Enixis, Ludwig_TEH, Nepthan, Pez, Slegger, Swotor Minor is here. Beware 2, Dunadai. Our guest is here. Ghostmere, Lethal, X Bacon, Megadan, Valleys, and Rikiri are all here. So hi everyone. And let's see, this week a little short on playtime. I had mandatory overtime, and then Father's Day we did some things, so not tons of time over the weekend, and so on and so forth. I did get to try out the whole casino thing. I spent 600,000 credits and netted none of the big prizes, but I guess I got enough of those gold ticket thingies to get the light blue vehicle, and the pet, and the hollow slot machine, so that was alright. I'll probably try to get the Rancor on at least one of my sort of main characters now, but we'll see. I also did the Jawa Joyride group. There'll be more about that later, but just to give my end of it. They were all 55. I was 53. We tried Nightmare EC, but just didn't know the fight well enough to do it. So we instead sprinted through most of story mode, and then I had to leave. And I believe they were going to continue. So we'll see about that later. So pretty basic week. So that'll bring us on to the tip of the week. And Tia, why don't you start us off?
The first tip is from Darksplat. If you're like me and just power level your alts through double XP weekends and KDY to reach level 55 for rating, do the storyline slowly and stress-free. You miss out on a few of those 1,000 kill achievements along the way for your companions, but no more. Bioware didn't pick this bug in 2.7 like they were supposed to. Whenever you are grouped in a flashpoint, which he didn't test, or in an operation, which he did test, you just hit N to bring up the crew skills window, and then hit the summon button on the right. Now your companion won't summon, because you're in an operation, but will be active. And considering how many ads are in an operation these days, you can get 300 to 400 kills. This is kills, the achievement clocking up with your companion, from Dread Fortress and Dread Palace on hard mode or nightmare mode together. If you wipe once on Corruptor Zero, for example, that's a lot of ads in one sitting, as my two guilds are doing. And Darksplat is with Ewocalypse now on the pub side, and Warchild on the Empire side. And you can see your progress via the achievement tracker. Actually, that's a really good tip. I'm going to have to do this. Thank you.
All right. And Dunadai, you have a tip of the week.
I do. So my tip was just a quick one for anyone who's doing the Galactic Starfighter while the double rec and credits is going on. Even if you don't normally fly them, make sure to use as many of your ships as possible, and ideally only 1 or 2 ships per match, and this will maximise the amount of ship rec you can earn in any given match. You can level ships a lot quicker while this is going on, even if you don't convert ship to fleet rec via cartel coins, since the fleet rec is gained at 10% of the total ship rec earned per match, which is a bit of a mouthful. And as has been mentioned on the show before, the credit return is very lucrative at the moment.
Excellent. All right. Third tip is from Nepthan of the Old Republic Dads Guild. And Nepthan writes, don't forget to log on to your alts to get those free smuggler chips. Yeah, if you're willing to make the trip, you can get 5 chips free for each of them. Tino, go
And
ahead.
our fourth tip is from Dekion. My tip for this week makes it really easy to browse through the GTN. Just type the first 3 letters or numbers of each word in the name for the piece you're looking for. This cuts down on misspelling and saves a lot of typing when looking for something in the GTN.
Makes sense. Fifth tip is from Descartes, and Descartes writes, do the casino intro quest on all alts. See, 5 free pulls is free pulls, and I got a third of my achievements and 2 GCs and
Gold
didn't spend
certificates.
gold certificates and did not spend 1 credit. So kind of similar to Neptun.
And our last tip is from Ludwig. Have you ever wanted to quickly access your crew skills without needing to go through all the hassle of opening different windows? Well, you can keybind them to your hotbar. Video shows the specifics, and he did provide a video. Now what he actually does, you open your crew skills window, and you've got the 3 icons up the top for your 3 crew skills. You can actually just drag them off and stick them on your action bar. I didn't know this.
I had
It's
no idea.
fantastic.
That's crazy.
It's great.
That's so cool. All right. So, by random allotment, the winner is Dekian. So, Dekian, congratulations. You're the winner of one of the M8R3 codes, courtesy of BioWare, and a new OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you have a tip, please send your tip to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday for a chance to win the same. That will bring us to the holofeed. Tio?
Well, Game Update 2.8, as we know, came out last week and had all kinds of issues. Let's call them the area transition issues. And it turns out, all had a single root cause, which we alluded to last week. They then posted something that let us know exactly what it was, and it turns out the problem was with 16-man queues. The fact that they added in Game Update 2.8 the ability to queue for operations with 16 people. For whatever reason, it turned out that was putting some kind of really heavy load, which then caused an incredible number of unintended consequences, such as massively long load times, people logging in and not being in a guild, just all kinds of horrible things. But those 16-man queues were the cause, believe it or not. And so on Friday morning, they did release patch 2.8a, which changed the group finder so that the 16-mans reverted to 8-mans. And everything was fine. That was it. So, yeah, it was that simple. There was a completely separate issue to do with the legacy unlocks not working, for example, on reducing your quick travel times, that kind of thing. They fixed that too. So, patch 2.8a, Friday morning, 3 days later, everything was good, basically. And though last night they did do a 2.8b, now that fixed a couple of very minor things. Well, actually, it fixed the text because even though they'd reduced the 16-man ops back to 8-man, the text, when you brought up the window, still said 16-man. So they fixed that, so it said 8-man. And the other one was an issue where completing the op in the group finder didn't actually reward you the 30 ultimate comms. So that was at least affecting some people. So that actually had to be fixed. So that's now done as well. So that was 2.8b. So at least now 2.8 is probably pretty much where they intended. Now, I guess we should at least briefly touch on the 16-man thing being an issue and why it wasn't revealed or why it wasn't discovered. I guess from a software developer's point of view, it's just something that would only be surfaced if you have substantial load testing. On the PTS, even if you did have 16 people actually going in and testing it, it probably would have worked just fine. The issue only comes when you have more than multiple, effectively, groups of people queuing up for the 16-man. And that's when I can just imagine the sinking feeling the devs had when they saw this began to happen. And yeah, and they were desperately trying to find out what the hell happened, what was different, and
Yeah, it's so strange that it... like, I would have never guessed a 16-man group finder.
yep. And just the sheer volume of unintended consequences is just really unfortunate. So, yeah.
Logging into GSF, it was quite hysterical. You would just end up inside of things, spinning round and round, and yeah.
We queued up for a hard mode flashpoint. We ended up in one of the Zerka ones, and when the four of us zoned in, it was a pre-made guild group. We were each in a separate version of that. So we're all by ourselves. So the guys logged out and logged back in again. Of course, loading into it took about 10 or 15 minutes. So
Wow.
I think it took us half an hour to actually get going, but we did eventually actually all get into the same one and were able to fix it. But yeah, all of that was fixed with 2.8a and then a few further fixes in 2.8b. So now everything is as intended. Anyway, moving on. Last week we mentioned in the patch notes there was something about system messages are now able to have their location moved with the interface editor, and I mentioned I couldn't find it. The reason I couldn't find it was it's not there. So there was a bit of internal miscommunication about that, and it is apparently slated to be included in 2.8.2, which should be in another 5 weeks or so.
Okay.
Now, I've already mentioned that the Nightmare mode in Dread Fortress, the Nightmare power buff has been removed, but as we observed, the health of the bosses is what it was in Nightmare mode. So, for example, on Nephra, the first boss in Dread Fortress, it's in hard mode, it's about 2 million. In Nightmare, it's 2.5 million. And yes, that is specifically intended, and gotta say, that's good. It means that even though it's a lot easier because the bosses hit less hard and just take the pressure off your healer, as Nephan said in chat, you still actually have to have your DPS doing some substantial damage if you want to meet that enraged mark. And also, the mystery of the missing ELO. Now, after 2.8 was released, people began saying that they were losing ELO even though they had left the queue but had not actually rejected a pop. Now, the way it works is if you're queuing for ranked PvP and you get a match invite, if you decline that, you will lose the 15 elo. That's just probably because they don't backfill. So if you don't accept, whoever got into the match was left with only 3 people, and yeah, so that's not good. But if you leave the queue without a pop, you're not meant to be penalized. That's perfectly fine. And people were saying they were being penalized. And they did clarify that that was indeed because of that area transition issue caused by the 16-man queues. Basically, what was happening is people had actually been allocated to a match, but the window hadn't popped up saying that, giving them the option to get into it. And so they were leaving queue thinking that there hadn't been a pop, there had been, thus they got penalized, the minus 15 elo. So that's really nasty.
This was mostly only happening on the Harbinger, though, right?
It would happen anywhere where the area transition issues were occurring, and that would only happen if there were a lot of people queuing 16-man for
Okay.
2.8A. So happened on the Harbinger, happened on the Red Eclipse, etc. The real heavy pop servers at heavy pop times, but could happen anywhere as well. Apparently, they can't really identify who was affected by this, and so they can't really compensate players who were affected. So it's just another one of those unfortunate circumstances. Yeah. Now, we did get the Scoundrel and Operative Q&A, but I think we'll cover that next week. So last in the news, what we're going to talk about is the Community Cantina that was held in Los Angeles on last Thursday night. Now, there's been some coverage of it. Dolphy has the flash drive contents, and in it we have, firstly, just the quick look stuff, including images from the Tatooine homestead, which is one of the faction-neutral strongholds that are being added. And they're actually really cool. It seems to be quite substantial in size. It looks like it's actually part of a building built into the cliff, a cliff face. It's a bit unclear exactly where you are. So
Yeah, I was curious about it
there's
because it could also. It looks like
underground
maybe.
stuff too.
It looks like maybe you've got the like moisture farmer underground, dug into the ground type locations like Owen Lars is, where we first met Luke. Since it's up against the cliff face, it looks like you might even be able to expand into that and then rise up and have balconies and whatnot coming off of it. I don't know. It's pretty awesome though.
I agree. Now, there are a few other images as well. There was something which looked like a 2-man speeder, which got me excited until I realized it was a droid driving it. So you were just basically in the sidecar, but you had a droid driver, not another player. That would have been cool. There's the walker mount, which apparently is going to be on the cartel market. Is this effectively a scout walker, the little ones?
Cool.
Sadly, not a full walker. Maybe that'll be a PvP reward at some point, an actual 4-leg walker. That'd be awesome. Yeah, nothing else. Oh, and a bunch of decorations for strongholds. And there's a lot of stuff. We've heard mentioned already there's going to be hundreds of things, crap, for you to put into your strongholds. So
Yep.
a few examples shown. And the Q&A. Now, Swotorista has a recording of it, but we also got a recording from Lethal X Bacon, who was actually at the event. And I may actually post that as a separate MP3 that you can download if you like. Swotoristo has a YouTube video of the recording, which both of them are fairly clear. I think Lethal X Bacon's may actually be the better. But anyway, if you want to listen to it, it's about half an hour and then does include the various giveaways. But I'll just quickly summarize the interesting questions before we get to the post Q&A discussion that Red will cover for us. So what did they mention? Faction-specific strongholds can be accessed from your other faction's tunes if they're smuggled in. That's what they said. I don't know what that means. I was assuming they'd be just a quick travel. So your Sentinel, for example, could quick travel to your Droman stronghold. So I don't know what they mean by smuggled in. We'll see.
Palais here is saying that on the neutral planets, each faction will have their stronghold in a different spot. So it might be that you actually have to go kind of sneak into where that legacy representation is on the planet.
That makes sense. However, that if they're going to be guarded by the usual 55 champ droids or whatever,
Might be
Who
tough,
knows?
yeah.
Might
Could
need to
be.
take some friends, yeah.
I should mention the people in attendance at the community cantina were Jack Wood, the producer responsible for at least some aspects of Strongholds, Andrew Horwitz, another designer, Courtney Wood, and Eric Musco. Anyway, they have announced that there is going to be a lot more information coming about Galactic Strongholds in a couple of weeks, so that means the end of June, and then it was on the forums as well. And I think what Musco said is we will start diving more into the specifics around Galactic Strongholds in the next few weeks, specifically the end of June into July. So there's going to be info dump coming around then. So lots of stuff for us to get excited about because it's coming up quick. About eight or 9 weeks. 9 weeks until 19 August and 2.9 and the early access. All right. In answer to a question, they said crafting is going to get some up in making it better. So they're trying to come up with a more integral, or I think you said compelling part, make it a more integral or compelling part of the game. Was asked whether there would ever be more than 5 companions on crucial missions, because apparently not. They're going to limit it to 5 that you can actually send out at the same time. The reason for that is that's how many base companions we get. So obviously the actual answer is we have 6, including the ship droid, but anyway. And the reason given was they want to avoid it being pay to win, because you can actually purchase the additional companions, Treek and HK, with a bit of screwing around.
Right. Well,
And
know,
so-
if they made it so that you can do 7 or 8 or 9 or however many, it would just drive the economy down anyway. Make things too
Possibly.
efficient.
Well, we've still got to
Maybe.
sink credits in to send them out on the missions anyway.
Mhm.
That's true.
If they're the rich or bountiful, it's still like 3,500 credits each time.
Yep.
I'm just saying, everybody's got a ship droid. We could send out 6 without having to buy anything.
This
Yep.
is true. This is true. All right. PvP ranked season rewards. They asked, why haven't they been announced yet? And they haven't yet for season 2. The reason is they want to announce them halfway or later through the season. And that's because, firstly, they don't know what they are at the start of the season, because remember, that's about when they started asking us for ideas about what those rewards should be.
Right.
And secondly, they want to announce it in conjunction with where you have to actually get your rating. So what are the rating thresholds for the different tiers of rewards? And they won't know that until about halfway or later through the season, once they see where everyone is in terms of what proportion of the population, where is the top 5%, etc.
I see.
So that was the reason given.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess.
The only disappointing thing from that is that they're actually going to be announcing thresholds again. I kind of wish that they'd just give us percentages. And,
Yeah.
figure out for yourself, make it a little bit more dynamic. If they give you thresholds, then you have a huge, massive proportion of the PvPers that know, okay, good, I'm there, I can stop playing now.
That's true. Multi-spec? No, still no, and not going to happen soon apparently, and is basically unplanned at this point. But they emphasize, once again, they play the game, they would really like it themselves, it's just whenever they can get the resources allocated for it. He was
but-
asked...
Didn't they say there was going to be no housing not too long ago, too?
And no guild chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, all true.
It is a little bit different. They said not soon TM. So maybe the end of the year instead of in the next 3 months.
It'd be
Just
nice if it was in the
after
extra.
that happened, I'll take anything they say with a grain of salt now.
That's true. Though, if they say it's unplanned, that probably means it will not be in the expansion at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
maybe sometime after that.
I mean, the biggest thing is that every single one of these community cantinas just asks that question over and over again, because clearly, whatever time frame they might be telling you, they do seem to respond to what people are asking for, and this is becoming something that people are asking for a lot more recently. Again,
It'd be really nice. I mean, it is easy to respec if you have field respec, but just clicking a button would be so much better.
yeah, that's the biggest thing. Even if it were field respec and you only could, choose between two, you're limited or whatever. Just the fact that if you could also have it redistribute all of your spell abilities to a preset configuration, as well as swapping your gear out, it would be real nice.
Yeah. All right, the last question to cover is target dummies. Could they have target dummies for tanks and healers? That somehow allowed tanks to test their effectiveness and healers likewise. And they said, yeah, actually, maybe. So that'd be nice.
Wow. I got
All right,
killed
Brett?
by my target dummy last night. That would make a bad story, man.
All right, Red, cover the Q&A that from Lethal X.
All right, so fortunately we had Lethal X Bacon on the ground at the cantina, and he took some really good notes for me. This would be Lethal X Bacon on the Bastion, and he's from the Last Dark Reapers Guild. He got to ask a good few questions, and some of these are actually really interesting, but I'll just work my way through in order. He was asking about the regen items. Apparently he's a real big cartel market regen item junkie, so he's been collecting a ton of them, and well over half of his bag is full of these things with slots, and he's just running out of, how do you switch between PvE and PvP gear when your bag is full? And so he asked them about that, and they with the proposition that perhaps it could be added in as either an extra tab like the missions bar, or as learn it and put it onto your abilities bar situation. And they seemed pretty intrigued by that notion, and it sounded like they might be able to get it to join the abilities bar.
That would be cool.
He was also asking about cosmetic items. Any of your gear, your clothing or whatever, no matter what the source is, cartel market or missions or anything like that, he proposed the notion that would it be possible to make it bound to legacy through an item like an augmentation kit. So it's an item that you would use and place it onto this item and then make it bound to legacy. And again, he seemed really, really intrigued by that, and said he was going to be bringing it up at one of his next developer conversations. Which I think that would be awesome. It would be really interesting, and they could even go ahead and simply make that a cartel coin purchase. That way, you're still, because some of these items are going to be from the cartel market, and you're going to, they have a cartel. You can get, any of your characters can get that item by paying through the collections to unlock it for all of them. They would still probably want some sort of injection to make it a legacy transferable, because it does overlap there a little bit. But if you had some kind of kit that you could just install and make it legacy, would be really awesome, because there's so many, especially world drops and whatnot, that are just bind on pickup even, and I'd love that shell to be able to get to my other characters.
But what about if just everything was in the collections? I mean, that would solve the same problem.
Or if they even had something tied into this legacy bank, which we just don't know about that either. So anyway, guild ship transportation as it's implemented right now for their internal servers is apparently only usable by the GM at this point. This isn't final, but it is how it's implemented. And I'm thinking perhaps we ought to let them know as a community that it would be much nicer on the GMs for at least more than one person to be able to use it, tie it into one of the permissions that GMs can give to a specific officer type or something. Because let's be honest, not every GM is online for every operation, every world boss, every community event that you do on a planet, every anything. It would definitely be much more appealing to have more than one person able to move the guild ship.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did say... Go ahead.
Cover the dot smash?
Oh, yeah. Bacon was also pretty intrigued because he had asked, why did dot smash get addressed when it did? And the response was that too many people started using dot smash. That was the biggest reason it ended up getting addressed. It wasn't because dot smash was powerful or useful or that it was a hybrid spec that was working inappropriately. It actually had to do with them looking at the fact that the community as a whole was realizing that this hybrid spec was necessary to get maximum performance. And it was only when the general population started adopting it that they then decided to go ahead and address it. Because they don't actually have that philosophical, none of these hybrid specs should work. It was just, it's only, so go ahead, search, find a hybrid spec. If it really works for you, just don't tell other people. They won't do anything about it until it becomes the thing everyone's doing. Which is cool, too. I mean, that's how I discovered my hybrid spec originally. If you're a fan of KOTOR or KOTOR 2, there is something really exciting coming out for 2.9 that has not been released yet. It's a teaser, but at least confirmed by one of the devs. By the way, Jack Woods, he's the BioWare developer that was there, he was hinting, apparently, and being vague and beating around the bush, and then finally came out and asked this question to Bacon. What is coming out on December 18th next year? That would be Star Wars Episode 7. He apparently has revealed that they are now working on a new secret developer project, not like an expansion or anything like that, but a project where in the next year we will be getting the results of it, where something is going to be placed in this game that is actually going to be referenced in Episode 7 in some way. So, cool. Like call back to, in the Clone Wars, we did get to see Darth Bane was in it, So something like that. It sounds like they're working together with Disney, which actually on one of those live streams, Musco mentioned that he talks to Lucasfilm and the Disney those people quite frequently. So it sounds like they might be working together with, obviously nobody's got scripts or anything like that, but as they get closer, they're going to, it sounds like, implement a story arc that we will get to see in-game that will actually be a part of Episode 7. Very, very, very cool.
Does that mean that SWTOR is in some way becoming canon? Because as we know, the change that Disney have recently announced, Disney and Lucasfilm, all of the story content, everything that is produced going forward, including books, games, as well as the movies, is considered canon. They're just going to have a single group defining all of the story, and it's all official, as opposed to the way it was before, where there were different levels of canon.
Right.
So if they're actually including something, maybe it's just unofficially, but it'd be nice if they could declare the SWTOR era, the KOTOR-SWTOR era, as canon, which they could do. They haven't, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, and ours is a very interesting game because of that statement that anything going forward would be considered canon. Ours is the only actively developing, consistent, existing game, and we are going forward.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So it could be very curious, and they could even still take the liberty of saying, well, this MMO, what we've experienced within it, is cool, but KOTOR and KOTOR 1 are actually still legend status, and that's legend that what we're living now is actually the real,
Sure. Sure.
But it does at least have some interesting implications. Capital ships. Players will be able to duel on them.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. We can't do it on the fleet, but you will be able to do it in your guild ships, which is also cool too. It's incentive for you to congregate there together with your guild. Lost my place.
You're saying they're multi-level and that they're huge?
Yes. So the guild ships are also massive. From all accounts, it sounds like there is definitely going to be a status check on how wealthy your guild is. But it is going to be very massively expansive on the ground floor, the first floor that you open up, and you can open up massive rooms one after the other along the whole length of the ship, but then it's also going to be multi-leveled, and these are capital ships.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So it is going to be epic. And the other very interesting thing is we had talked about, what are we going to be putting into our guild ships? We talked about this on the show before. And we had speculated, well, if they're going to be doing anything concerning operations trophies or whatever, they probably need to implement some sort of guild tracking. In reference to this new tracking feature, it looks like they have confirmed, they haven't explained how this is happening or anything about the tracking, but guild trophies will have distinction between story, hard mode, and nightmare mode, which means there will be guild trophies.
Right.
Are you sure they didn't just mean player trophies that you get for actually doing those yourself, which you can then put into your guild ship? So these guild trophies are different to the ones that players get by
Bacon
themselves.
is back in the channel, so we can let him answer that, actually.
Okay, but he's 30 seconds behind.
30 seconds, so keep
Yeah,
going.
move on.
So I'll keep moving and we can get back to that. Capital ships... Oh, wait, yeah, sorry. You'll get a buff when the ship is parked over the planet. So that's confirmation. I'm pretty sure they might have stated that, or we had supposed on that, but yeah, you will definitely be getting buffs while you're on the planet with the ship itself being parked over the planet. Interestingly, they will be cleaning up resolutions. This is a graphics upgrade. They will be cleaning up resolutions for the planet when you take your ship to or from one location, from location to location. So this could be one or the other or both, but approaching, you get to see the planet as you approach on your ship, as you exit hyperspace and everything, and they might be cleaning that up. Or it could be when you click on your door, and they always have that cinematic sequence as you go down to the planet with your ship flying into orbit and everything. But whatever, they're actually going to be cleaning up those graphics quite a bit. My personal speculation is, before, wouldn't it be cool if you had capital ships during these events planted above certain planets, and you could look up at the sky and you could see those capital ships? This might be more a realistic dynamic where that actual cinematic sequence is influenced by the fact that you're parked there or your capital ship is parked there or whatever. So they might be able to tie something. That's a much more simple implementation than looking up at the sky and counting ships,
Sure.
And Jack Woods is the developer that heads up this guild ship and the Conquering Planet concept. He's the development lead on that. So this is why we're getting a lot of information around this.
Okay. Lethal X is confirming that it is guild trophies, and you get them with achievements. You automatically get the trophies.
Excellent.
So cool.
Yeah.
Also, every single planet can be conquered, and it will be yours for the duration of the event, your guild. The weekly events can be compared to ranked PvP with rewards coming from them, etc. The top players are going to be getting individual rewards. So how much you contribute to trying to conquer a planet as an individual will be giving you a score. We know they've already stated that this scoring system, or how you're contributing to this conquering event, whatever the true implementation is not PvP. So presumably quests or gathering of materials or something like that will all have to do with that contribution. Your individual contribution will have some form of leaderboard, it sounds like, and so that you will be able to earn certain rewards. Or maybe it's just that you need to do a certain number of the quests during the event as a contribution. But also, guild and individual scores are not going to be bound. So an individual can go and contribute to this event without being a part of a guild and benefit from it as an individual, but then guilds themselves are going to be the ones that are going to be able to hold the planet and get guild perks from that, such as, it sounds like, there will be mounts. While you control a planet, you get mounts, such as ATST walkers, which will be yours for the duration of your ownership of that planet.
That's cool.
Very, very cool, which I'm actually kind of curious, because the thumb drive from this event, we see 3 mounts, and then we have 2 pictures of an AT-AT on Hoth, without the normal background for mounts, basically. I'm really curious if that might actually be pictures of the Conquest event and someone owning that for the duration. And it's also assumed that the mount that you would get for this would only be usable on the planet that you actually have conquered. So you couldn't take it and wander around the entire galaxy. Bacon also mentioned that it was really vague, but he almost got the impression that perhaps only GMs would be able to use the walkers or whatever these, I'm sure there's more than one type. Whatever these mounts are, it might be another thing that only GMs can use. I would be really, really disappointed if that was the case, though, because that's putting the onus of so much reward on a single person in a single guild for something that's supposed to have the whole guild working at it. You would hope that maybe you'd be able to get an army of these things to run around with or something, or at least be able to pass it around to individuals in the guild. But again, these things are not final, and they may change. And any of this information is just how it's working right now for them in-house. We haven't certainly had any kind of access to open beta tests or closed beta testing or anything like that. He did confirm open world PvP will certainly be impacted. You will not be able to stop the opposing faction from succeeding and participating in the conquest events, but you will have the opportunity to slow them down. So, i.e., PvP servers, whatever it takes to be on the planet to help conquer it, you can go and mess with them. You can get in their way and slow them down literally from being able to move around the planet. So I'm very, very excited about that, and I'm glad that they're addressing that is something that will be developing, and I'm very much looking forward to being a part of it. My contribution to the event will be slowing down the other guy. Strongholds will have tons. So this is to the strongholds now. We got a little bit of an understanding of how it will be used, how we will be customizing and executing the design of our strongholds. Strongholds are going to be having tons and tons and tons, can't stress enough, lots of layouts. But there will be layouts that you choose from for each room. For example, multiple living room layouts that you're going to choose from a template of sorts. Living rooms, garages, pet housing, I guess. I don't know. So there is going to be a certain degree of predetermination to where you can put things, but you get to choose the layout of that. And so I kind of think of this, I compare it to the Squarespace model. I don't know if you're not familiar, Squarespace is a website building service, and they're well renowned and have gotten all sorts of rewards for the fact that you can go and sign up and use their tools to generate a website, and it will look unique. It's not because it's 100% unique. They still have templates, and they're constantly adding what templates that you can use, but because you can have any kind of graphics you want and choose amongst all sorts of different templates, we're going to have any kind of design settings, wall murals, maybe paint on the walls, whatever, and then the pets and the achievements that you get and the trophies and everything else. The diversity of the templates combined with the diversity of the items that you're going to have access to combined with how you want to set that up is going to let you make a very unique housing environment. You won't be able to, you will totally be able to tell the difference between your stronghold and someone else on the same planet. Tied together with that, we also know that when even if there might be a certain degree of predetermination on where things might be placed, you will have a large degree of control over how it's actually presented within that space that you located in. So you will have three-dimensional, rotational change
or items
for the item that you place within the room.
Okay.
So you put the pet on the ground, you can choose which direction it's going to be oriented. Conceivably, that could even extend to the fact that you can change the pose that it's in, if it's going to be static or if it's going to stand in a location and move. We don't, I don't know the extent to that, but apparently there is quite a degree, even tilting like a speeder on its side or whatever, there's going to be control like that. So it looks like it's going to be pretty intense. And from having experienced, WildStar, which a lot of people compare to, this sounds like it's going to be just fine. WildStar is not as phenomenal as a lot of people make it out to be, and this sounds like it's got just as much opportunity to be quite impressive. And then the last thing, which is kind of fun, I think it's cool. You can actually give keys to your friends for your stronghold, so that they can get straight to it.
That's cool.
And of course, as should always be the case, you can ban people.
Why would you ban people? Surely you can only ban people who have keys. So I assume they're not just open.
unless they actually have some sort of setup that you get to choose, because this is how it is in other games, is that you can choose the level of security for your stronghold.
Right.
So you might just have it open to the public for anybody,
Gotcha.
or you might set
yeah.
it up only people with keys. And heck, we don't even know. We know there's certainly more than one room. It might be that your friends with the keys can go into certain rooms that you don't open to the public, but you do have the public open to certain things. But it sounds
Wow.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it does. It does.
This is,
All right.
I really like this. This is a lot more information than I ever thought they were going to give, and I'm really, really, really glad that Lethal X Bacon was there to get it for us.
All
Definitely.
right. That's it for the Community Canteen from LA last week. The next one will be in San Diego for Comic-Con on 25 July on Friday. Anyway, that's the news.
All right, on to the community corner. And we'll start with the Utini Templars rating report. This one's from Greg. This week on Wednesday night, Betty couldn't make it. I thought I saw him in a special VIP room at the back of the casino in Nar Shaddaa. So in his stead, Tio helped us out and stayed up way past his bedtime and filled it in on his sage. We headed back to Dread Fortress Hard Mode, down Nefra, then proceeded to the puzzle section. Tio insisted we do it the correct way, and due to a mix of Chong's drinking and Cracker's affinity for making the game do out-of-the-ordinary things, we ended up stuck behind a gate that no one knew how to get through. We eventually got through and proceeded to bang our heads against Draxus until we got too tired and went to bed. We'll get him this week for sure. On Thursday night, we thought about it.
On Thursday night, we
On
thought it
Thursday
about
night,
time.
we thought it about time we try to get another one of those pesky vehicle quests out of our logs and headed into hard mode, explosive conflict. Not many of us had done it in hard mode before. In fact, most of us had only been in once or twice in story mode. We downed Toth and Zorn easily, even ignoring some mechanics, and proceeded to the tanks. They took us a few attempts to down, but we all had a lot of fun learning the fight. We didn't have a lot of time left, so we only had a few attempts at the minefield. I think we'll be heading there again this week.
Also, Tio, the chat room brings up an excellent case. Banning. If you've given somebody a key, you can't force them to give it back. And you might have a falling out with that individual, and then you just want to ban them.
Right, which means it makes more sense to whitelist players at different levels or whatever, rather than actually giving them a physical item.
Yeah.
All right, and Kuze wrote in about the Jawa Joyride. Kuze writes, this week's Jawa Joyride first led us on a nasty trip to a nightmare explosive conflict, which then turned into a peaceful run on story mode. The nightmare mode attempt was for a chance at the tank mount, but we soon learned that with only one healer and new people to explosive conflict, and people playing new roles as well, it was a little harder than expected. It was still a lot of fun on story mode, seeing explosive conflict again, and grabbing new gear and achievements for people. And that's true, my Sage got about over half a level just doing that, and even though I had to leave right after the tank boss, so that was really good. Next week's Joyride, Kuze writes, we'll either travel down the group finder path or on a galaxy hunt for world bosses. And over to you, Tio.
And I just wanted to plug the Bad Feeling podcast, which we all like regardless, but then on their episode 18, it was mainly an interview with Hannah Milford, who is a licensed counsellor and addiction specialist. And I would recommend listening, because the obvious issue has been raised that there are problems with people with a gambling addiction in the casino event in 2.8. And the discussion went in a very interesting direction, which certainly
very
made me somewhat
entertaining.
uncomfortable. Yep.
It was a brilliant show. I really, really enjoyed it.
And a great interview. So
And the woman that they had, the counselor that they spoke to, was not a scare tactics type individual. She wasn't trying to, fear the gambling in the game, it's going to ruin it and everything. She was very frank and honest. They did a real good job with that.
agreed. And also, just a guild community building thing, Zach in our guild posted a thread on our forums about showing your pets, as in your real life pets. He's got this really beautiful terrier. Anyway, so yeah, I'll include that in the show notes for guildmates to, if they so choose, post pictures of their own pets.
All right. Excellent. For the force, that brings us to the force feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And let's see, this is responding to Ferris Terran tweeting via Utini Nights about our live recording of this episode. Calgary wrote, "I'd love to hang out, but I'm afraid I'd have to change my handle to Cali Girl if Red pronounces it that way again." Wishful thinking, I suppose, or something's going on with that. Nepthin's writing in, "Just to clarify, for the DPS test, inspiration/bloodthirst is allowed for Sentinels and Marauders."
I'm going to have to redo my pars now. This is referring to the community standard for calculating one's DPS using your target dummy in your ship and all the things that are the rules. Now, they said you shouldn't use Inspiration Bloodthirst, but I guess Sentinels and Marauders can.
I could see it doing either way. I mean, I suppose if you're comparing one Marauder to another, you could use Inspiration Bloodthirst, but then it makes it tricky to balance it again when you're
compared to everyone else
between different classes. So
I think so.
Yeah, actually, I think the biggest reason you wouldn't want to be using it is because although yes, you have it and you can use it for yourself, everybody else gets the benefit from it. But when they're doing their dummy tests, they don't have access.
They won't
Exactly.
have it. Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. I think if we're doing our own comparisons, we wouldn't use it. Whatever.
Okay. Kranatoko wrote in, "Ta-da! Sorry it's late, guys. Having no money sucks at times." And it's a YouTube video.
And he's opening the Star Cluster Nightlife pack. Hyper great.
Always
And
fun.
he's got another
I look forward
intro
to
to that. Yep. And this time he substantially breaks the fourth wall. So
Oh, okay. That'll be
very much
interesting.
so. Mm-hmm.
All right, Carnes wrote, "I hate to admit it, but after a few years of play, I'm still a noob on just how some aspects of this game work. Could you guys explain exactly how the Collections UI works, and if there are any tips and tricks to it? With the coming Strongholds expansion, I'd like to consolidate all my pets and mounts in one place. Can I use the Collections UI to do this? Does it cost me cartel coins? And how can HK and Treek be mass-produced?"
So, with Collections UI, it's specifically for items, well, almost entirely for items that come from the cartel market.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is you obtain some item. It must be bound to you, so if it's a piece of gear, you have to actually wear it, so it becomes bound to you. It will then be added to your collection, and this applies to items as well, and various other things. Not everything, but most things. Now, on your other characters, you can then open up your Collections UI, which you can get to through your inventory, find that item, and it's actually a bit hard to search for items because you actually have to get it from a specific pack, or it's under the category of armor or whatever, and then you can unlock it. This will cost some amount of cartel coins, and only cartel coins. You can't do it with credits. Once that's done, and it's one-off, and it is account-wide, not legacy, account-wide, you can then create copies of that item for the other ones who didn't have it originally. Now, if you just add something to your collection, you can, without paying anything more, create any number of copies of that for yourself. Once you've unlocked it in the Collections UI, you can then get it or your other characters as well. Now, that means that once something is in your collection, you can safely destroy it, like, say, your Holo Trainer, the Dr. Ogorub thing, and then just grab one from your collection if you need it again. So
Right.
It doesn't have to clutter up your bank or inventory. Now, as far as Treek and HK goes, you do have to unlock Treek manually. That is, go through the full... Sorry. You do have to unlock HK51 manually. That is, by going through the full mission series that is started in Section X. And the recent SWTOR Escape podcast had an episode about just talking about that, doing it these days, long after HK was first introduced. Once you've done that, you can then pay cartel coins or credits to make it available on all your characters. And I believe that is faction specific. So you do have to go through the mission series on both Empire and Republic to get it for toons on both sides. Now, Treek is entirely different. Regardless of how you obtain it, you get the Treek bounty contract thingy. You can then unlock that in collections, and you can create a copy of that into your inventory and just the one-off collections UI cost, and then you can have as many copies as you like. So you can get that on all of your characters. So get it however you like, unlock it in collections, and then everyone can have one with no further work. It's just HK is a bit harder to get initially.
Right. And with Treek, that you can get her on the cartel market, and you can buy her off of a vendor for what, 1 million credits or something like that? Is that right?
I don't remember.
I thought it was some amount.
Yeah, I
like that.
think a million's right.
And
I think
but
it's a
she's
million
also,
credits.
But she's
It's a
also
million-
available on the GTN because people will have put up Treek unlocks there
Yeah.
as well.
Right, it's a million if you buy it from where the bounty contract week quests are in that part of the fleet,
Right.
but you have to be legacy level 40 to purchase it that way. So you have to
That's
end up
right.
paying more cash to get it from the GTN.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Chaz Lobo writes, Novar Coast last night. I killed the guy guarding the node. Then it bugged out and wouldn't let me click. Explicative. And then we lost by 12. Oh no.
Yeah, so just one of those many issues from the area transition bug, I guess.
He may have meant expletive, but I'm not sure.
He probably did mean expletive.
Okay. All right. And let's see. I haven't watched this one yet. Try to watch this at work and not laugh. And then there's a YouTube link.
I'll include
It's
the link.
awesome.
It's Duel of the Fates. There's a video of it, which is obviously the theme from the prequel trilogy.
Mhm.
You know, there's the video shows the orchestra actually performing it, but then he throws in various images of the words, as in using English words rather than the actual words in the thing. And then I looked into this because I was wondering what were the actual real words used. They're actually
There are
Sanskrit.
Oh, are they?
words. Yeah. It's a translation that John Williams came up with that he translated into various languages. He thought Sanskrit sounded the best, and so that's what it is. But obviously they sound a little bit like English words, as you'll see in the video.
That's
Do
fair.
so is there actually a translation of the Sanskrit? Like,
It's a
Does it
couple
look
of phrases that he used, and yes, I'd find one.
okay.
I can't remember it though. It's a
Yeah, we
little
might have to
obscure.
Google that, yeah. All right. Genetrix wrote, so I followed Red's advice about giving Galactic Starfighter a try. Man, do I suck at it, but I'm loving those sweet credits. Any idea where I can pick up Starfighters for dummies?
And
Hit
I
me up if you
suggested
see
he
me in
listen
game.
to Message Dan in game, or you can listen to episode 107, which was a pretty good intro to it, we think. This was when we were all into it. And also episode 120, which was our Gunship Roundtable, featuring our two guests, Dan and Unidai today. Plenty of great tips generally, as well as for Gunship specifically, and upcoming our Bomber Roundtable.
Very nice.
And also you had that episode with Pincer on there as well.
Oh yeah, which one was that?
It's the Scout
Sorry,
Round
I'll-
Table.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, with Pincer and
A little
Jubs.
after 120, I believe, yeah.
And we also had the Scout Roundtable, and I'll include links to all of that in the show notes.
Also, I think if I can get my friends to agree, because I've noticed some people asking about this on my Twitch channel, I think I'm going to actually have me and my friends that are have played it as much as I have do a kind of training sequence on my live stream, which I'll title appropriately. But I'll probably, when I do that, hopefully next week I'll highlight it on my channel too. Because yeah, especially if I could get people to show up into the channel for that, then I could actually have people asking questions, because we can even go over positioning within maps and things like that, which we haven't really covered that much, especially since the new game modes have come out.
It's hard to do in just a talking format.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Mariah writes in. Let's see, 4 GF op runs. Let's see.
Group Finder.
Group Finder.
Yeah,
There we
Group
go. Jeez. So many. Mariah writes, 4 Group Finder op runs later. It is clear the real threat you are facing is dealing with your pug allies and not the bosses. The finest leader would be hard-pressed dealing with heaping, waving, loot drama, and constant AFKs. I gave balance a shake on my Sage, while the output was was comparable. It lacked the flashy animations of telekinesis. Is that vain?
Not at all. I actually find the same thing. I actually really like TK is very flashy. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's also just sort of a psychological thing. If you feel your character is powerful, you'll play more powerfully, and it works.
Yeah.
Madmar, Force Swotor Social Media Promoter MVP. Thank you for all the time and effort.
And so say all of us. Yep.
Yeah. Mariah continues, I joined 2 Imperial side operations over the weekend. Both were formed quickly and started out fast and tidy. The first was on my Sork to practice the balance. Madness on that side, I think, which is right. And a group finder run of Dread Fortress. The trash and the first 2 bosses were down in no time at all. The tanks ran in and pulled the 3rd boss without calling out which strategy or group were going to be passed in future. Some did not use a portal in the confusion and were lost. First phase failed and wiped. An easy fix with the strong group, I thought, right? But 4 of 8 dropped without a word. The second, a Pug 16 Terror from Beyond. We stomped past everything to wipe on phase 2 of Terror from Beyond itself, as the tanks did not know what to do. Obviously they were very competent, just needed a quick download. But 5 people dropped without a word. / facepalm.
Yeah, the downside of pugs. Darklighter was telling us yesterday that he was in a Terror from Beyond, Group Finder op, got all the way through. Actually, it was a Scum and Villainy Group Finder op. They got all the way through the 8 bosses right to the end, and they wiped, and then a couple of people dropped. And they couldn't actually get anyone to come in. They requeued. Well, apparently the leader said they requeued via the Group Finder. But even though there were people queued, they actually explicitly made sure they just weren't being added. So something was going wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a reason that when you group find, it's, story mode, and it's also, bolstered.
And apparently even that's not enough.
Yeah. At Dirta writes, it says Club Vertica Casino for anyone who hasn't learned Orabesh from OotiniCast. And there's a link to the Orabesh trainer that you made, Tio.
Yep, and you just included the image. It's just some Orabesh from the casino. Now, I also wanted to mention that I've just updated the Orabesh trainer so that rather than just a random list of boring English words, it's now using a list of all of the words that are included in Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4. Now, I got this list from a guy named Tom Murphy the 7th, and he actually did a video where he took all those words, there's nearly 2,000 of them, and did a 43-minute video where he flashes just a very quick usage of each piece of dialogue for each word in alphabetical order. So, like, say for about, he will then have each character saying that word, where they say it in the dialogue, just flashing it up.
Jeez.
Incredible thing. But anyway, the Orabesh trainer now uses every word from Episode 4.
Wow. Okay.
Oh,
That's cool.
It need to be all the episodes, I guess, but it's a good start.
All right. Dan Kramer wrote 1.2 million credits. The unlucky title, the Rancor, 3 Vector Magnuses, 34 of the gold certificates. I'm happy with that, and done clicking. Wow, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. Nicely
He's way
done.
he's way ahead of the pack on that one. And Chong wrote as Uncle Chong, are you jealous? It took me 2 hours of gambling, and he's on a mount.
Yeah, you got lucky. Very nice.
Yep. He also writes, am I the only one who refuses to claim this ugly speeder? They just sit in my mail.
This is the Lucky 77.
Lucky 77, yeah.
It's the one that vomits coins. Or
I kind of dig
excretes
that one.
Coins, actually. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. It's a little gaudy, but I kind of dig it. Palais wrote, I spent over 3 million credits and still no Rancor. Call me dedicated. Ouch.
Yeah.
I hope I
Now
get,
you are playing those in purple machines with the lucky buff only, right? Yeah, you really
what I'm
should be doing
doing.
that. Feeling lucky. Yep. Only way to do it. And don't spend 50,000 credits on Kingpin tokens.
Right.
Please.
Even though it takes a lot longer to do it the other way.
It does, but really?
Gary writes in 2 million credits, 4 Victor and Magnuses, and 80 golden certificates later, finally a Rancor. Grats, BioWare.
Nicely done. 2 million credits.
BioWare is definitely taking some of the inflation out of the economy.
Well, we do know that Bill got his Rancor after spending 300,000. It's just random, so... Yep.
Baradur writes, after 6 days and 2.4 million credits later, I finally have the unlucky legacy title.
It took him that long to blow up a machine. Yeah.
Wow. And at Descartes wrote, casino event equals general chat full of people who never took a statistics class and just don't get it.
Best to turn
sure.
off general chat, I noticed.
Yeah, the
Especially
human brain is not wired to process statistics and probability very well.
And Palais apparently is up to 3.5 million now. He just said it in the chat room.
Ouch.
Truly dedicated.
Good luck. Ash wrote, Kuzey's platforming guide should be required viewing for all SWTOR players. Thanks, OotiniCast. Yes, and there's a link to Kuzey's platforming guide.
And yes, it did save us a lot of screwing around. It really does make it easier.
Ash also wrote, and the screenshot to prove that I paid attention.
Now, this is getting the one where you actually have to, this is on Alderaan, we have to ride a cable car down to a little island, which you otherwise, in theory, can't get to. Though, firstly, a sage pool can be used to bring up someone else, if someone did actually do it successfully, which I kind of screwed up and was held up there. But then we saw some other guy who also fell off. He just got on his speeder, bounced around, and eventually got onto it. So, oh well.
I've never done the cable car. I've only driven up the backside of it. Because you can hop up the backside.
Yeah.
And that's the way I learned. So I've never done the cable car. It looks cool.
It's a lot easier. Yeah, if you do it your way.
All right, Darklighter wrote, hoping someone can help. DPS Scoundrel Relic, Final Tier Matrix plus Augment, or Basic Gear Relic?
Good question. Anyone know the answer?
Not really.
No, me either.
Sorry.
Alright, let's just skip that.
So moving on, Darklighter writes, is it just me, or does this look like a frog face? It does.
From on view of a speeder, and yes, it does look like a frog
the
face.
new blue one, yes. And Darklighter also writes, every time I see my bounty hunter ship, I think it's giving the fleet the bird.
Or mooning the fleet,
I
either
don't
way.
see it on this one.
Little wings on the sides look a little bit like it's flipping the bird.
Kinda.
It's a double bird, basically. I think that's what he's going for.
I might be losing my dirty mind with my age.
Now, Darklighter also made good use of Corwin's tip from episode 144 about greatly extending your camera distance, which I've also used, and it's fantastic, though it's amazing how, if you begin scrolling back, it will take you quite a while to scroll back in again. But it really does change perspective.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's taken a bunch of images, including of Ancient Harborgate.
Really beautiful, actually. It's a really neat shot.
These are amazing. This whole series of photos is mind-boggling.
From Explosive Conflict, he did a Where in the Galaxy is Darklighter. I'll include that image if you see if you can spot where he is. And also Titan 6 in Scum and Villainy, and a few from the Korriban Incursion. I'll include all of these in the show notes. The extra perspective, the engine renders it beautifully when you zoom out that far. They're kind of stunning. Greg did the same thing and had a picture of Thrasher in Scum and Villainy from the top down.
Yeah, and I mean, the shadows and Thrasher, like, wow.
Yeah, that looks really
Even
cool.
from that distance, it just looks incredible.
It really looks like he has a spotlight on him.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could use that tip to set the minimum distance for the camera angle, which ways you can just set the key bindings to do scroll to maximum, scroll to minimum.
It's just a single
That'd be
number
really
that I
neat.
saw. Yeah. As far as we can tell, that's the only thing that's in the INO file.
And you said that was episode 144, right?
Yes, sir.
I am going to be doing this.
Cracker wrote in all that. Is this
Keep going.
okay? Cracker wrote in all that modeling, and 90% of it is an exhaustion zone. I'd love to run around and explore non-combat SWTOR areas. Yeah, on those pictures, most of that is not really explorable. All right, so that'll bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And we're going to be talking about the state of Galactic Starfighter with our resident Utini experts, Dan and Dunadai. So, Dunadai, why don't you lead us off here a little bit?
Okay, well, first of all, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Heather at PLS, Pretty Little Sith blog. This week she was writing an article about GSF. It's well worth a quick read. Sounds like she hasn't played the GSF much before, so it's very good reading for anyone who wants to break into it. So starting on, I just wanted to talk briefly about the new ships that are actually in the game. We've got the new gunship, we've got the new bomber that came out on 2.8, and then a little bit further back we had the new Strike and Scout.
Right.
So just go through those in order real quick. The gunship, obviously, it's one of my specialties, so it actually offers a lot of different play styles depending on the components you get. So you can have like a mid to long range scout buster with missiles to slow it down and then zap it with your slug gun. But you can also play around with the EMPs to turn it into a satellite taker. So there's lots of good options there. I like my traditional style gunship best so far. Maybe I'd need to max out the ship so I can actually play it to its full potential. But Dan, what's your impressions of it so far?
I've had some fun. I've played mostly with the bomber since that come out. I dumped a few points into the gunship and ran it a few rounds. It's not too bad. You got your maxed out slug gun. You can at least do some fairly effective damage. I used the EMP missiles. I haven't had a lot of success with those yet, but I don't have a lot of points into them, so it might be more effective later on after I get some more practice with it.
I can just tell you I've been playing that new bomber and going with the heavy blasters, concussion missiles, concussion mines. It seems to work really well as a counter to the two bombers, actually, because from long range you get off that one concussion missile and then go swooping in and start dropping your own mines, which take out their mines, and with the heavy blasters you can pretty much nuke them.
And it just looks really cool because it looks very much like a B-wing.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I got a completely different setup on my bomber. I took the proton torpedoes and the quad laser cannons and the interdiction sentry drones, and you can set up quite a defensible position. You can hold a satellite with that really effectively. If you reach out and touch them with the torpedo, when they turn around to come back at you, the interdiction sentry drones will slow them down and take them out, and then your quad laser cannon can just finish them off quick and easy.
Nice.
The only thing I don't like about the proton torpedoes is just the 4 second or 3.6 second cast time. So by the time you get the max range, the scouts right on top of you by the time they've done one missile lock.
That can be
the
only drawback on it, yeah. You can get it down to under 4 seconds for the lockdown, though.
Right, I think it's 3.6 or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
And then the gunship, it looks so horrible. I really don't like the looks of it at all. It's just like it's just rockets, that's it. There's no wings or anything elegant about it whatsoever. And the Strike and Scout, I haven't purchased these ones yet myself, but one of our fellow guildies, Coyote, he said he really enjoys the playstyle. He says these are the first kind of ships he thinks he's going to actually finish leveling.
Oh, wow.
And these are the ones where they're more the support roles. So like I said, I haven't played with them at all because I haven't purchased them yet, so I've been spending my rec on other things. Dan, any?
And
you played around with those ones, the Clarion?
No, I have not ever figured out how to play Strike Fighter or Scout, although there are some people out there that are really, really good with them. They, I'm not sure what the build is on them, but they turn around and they like to fly past you, turn around, and try and come up back behind you and hope you can't turn around and shoot them. Has been my experience with a lot of the Scouts and Strike Fighters.
Okay.
I like the Clarion a whole lot because, in particular, if you unlock the healing probes and then you've got a healing co-pilot, it is really hard. You can have your heal running a lot, and since the healing probes, Nano Cloud or whatever it's called, is AoE, it seems to work really, really well as a support wingman ship. If you've really gotten good at actually flying alongside and being near your one or two other people flying in formation, they can just be absolutely devastating.
And I'm actually seeing a lot more strike fighters on the server now. Before it was pretty much scouts, and there's just a handful of strikes. But I don't think they're overpowered. I think they're getting there. I think there still need a bit of work done to them. But some of those scouts are so strong. Behind the hands of the right person, you can still get 2 shots or 1 shot if you're just bad timing.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it for the new ships. Then I just had a few key points that just wanted to go over, like queue times. On Harbinger, it seems pretty hit and miss. Probably average about 10-minute wait time. I don't know what it's like on the Bastion, where it's more of a PvP server, Red. You getting popped pretty quick?
10 minutes? Yeah, no, it's definitely faster than that. Although I will say at lunch, it was over 10 minutes for the first time that I can remember in forever. I don't know what that was about today, but normally 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes on the outside.
Okay.
But we've also been noticing, because I actually got a chance to talk to the Red Mist Squadron, whom we had Pincer on from, and is part of that whole community on the Bastion that has been playing on both sides. They've noticed a lot more people playing GSF, and just like from their perspective, the SWTOR world has really expanded quite a bit. It seems like the population's just exploded, and they were also attributing that to the fact that ESO is just not seeming to hold a lot of people, so they've had a lot of their friends returning from other games, and that might have something to do with it. That they've got a lot of their friends coming back, and our GSF community is so strong. Just amongst themselves, that there seem to be, there's always 4 or 5 of them online, so that anybody that randomly wants to get in, eventually you'll get a queue.
Well, and I've noticed that there seems to be a lot of pre-mades, usually on the other side, so you're starting to lose a lot of matches, because of the times I'm logging on, it's usually I'm just solo queuing.
It's actually, I was really pleased on Tuesday, I guess it was Tuesday night, last night. I ended up, I haven't really been playing GSF much until this last week, because, with the new event going on and the double returns and everything, I got back in, been loving it, and Jubbs, who was our scout guy, he's been really enjoying it too, and we were quite pleased on Tuesday night to run into the circumstance that we knew that Stasi and Pincer and Draculich were queuing on the Imperial side, but we were not queuing up against them. We were actually, there were enough people queuing that even though we knew there were other pre-mades running out there, we weren't ending up running into them until at the last match of the night, and then of course they did, and we lost. But that was okay.
And on that as well, there still seems to be a faction imbalance, so there still is a lot of pub versus pub matches. Those are usually just horrible. But it seems. Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't had quite the same experience. I haven't had any more than usual with pub versus pub when I've been playing. I know we kind of ended up playing at different times lately, I believe.
Maybe that's
right.
So
yeah, because it's usually about later at night when I'm getting on. So I'm guessing the pubs or the imps have had their fill, and it's just the Republic serving it.
I don't
At
know.
that time.
There's been a lot of parity with the imp side. There have been nights where I've been playing on Megadan, and it's just been devastating, losing 4, 5, 6 matches in a row, and imps just freaking manhandling the heck out of us.
Well, I had noticed that if you play queue up earlier in the evening, imps tend to win more. Queue up later in the evening, pubs tend to win more. Whether that's the same for all servers, no idea. But on the Harbinger, that seems to be the key to it.
You see, so for you, it's that earlier for you is when I'm playing.
And pretty much everyone who was on my list, I never see them anymore. So whether
Yeah,
they've given up on the.
Yeah, I can't keep up with the list. It seems like every couple of weeks there's a couple of new guys that freaking come in and do 20, 30 kills with their scout or whatever, and I'm like, how do you do this? I'm gonna just have to stop and ask them one day. I'm go on over to the other side and log on to Fear Me and go, hey man, you're doing great. How you doing that? Anyway.
But there's still a lot of close games out there. Like yesterday, I had a death match which ended 49-50, so it was give or take all the way. So it's good when it is that close and it's down to the wire, and that's when I think, do I want to carry on living in my ship, or no, back onto the normal gunship. I know where I'm at with that one and can just maybe just influence the game that much more.
I want to throw out one quick Republic on when you're doing death matches, group up. Please, I'm begging you. And when we group up, we win. When people are just flying around willy-nilly, it doesn't go well.
That makes sense.
Pretty much.
Yeah, gotta focus fire.
Yeah, if you group up and work together with the bombers, putting up a wall of defense. Anyway, yeah, we'll get into that on the next talk.
I mean, even if you don't group up, as long as you say in chat to start with, gunship head into A, bomber head into B, something like that. That usually helps. Someone says, I'll scout, I'll come and cover you, kind of thing. So sometimes that helps, sometimes it doesn't, because random is random.
Exactly.
I do have a question for you, because I know you both have played lots of gunships. Do you find any of the new, because we've got, 3 more gunships since the last time we talked to you, are any of them better than Quarrel, or whatever the Imperial version is?
I haven't. The Imperial sides are all comparable. The Imperial side's called a Mangler, so they just got a better name. Okay. But I haven't come across a gunship that I'm finding to work better than the Quarrel or the Mangler.
I think that
comparable,
one works,
but not better.
I think that one works best because you've got the choices of the 2 railguns. You've got the slug for the main, and then the ion or the plasma. But the plasma is just so effective that to use any of the other gunships, it seems like you're giving up so much utility.
Right. Is that the one that just burns through the shield real quick?
It burns up through their shields, and if you've got it spec'd right at the top tier, then it slows them down or drains their engine.
Right.
And
does
that stack with the ion?
The ion does not stack.
No? Okay.
No, okay.
So after you've slowed them down, then you can switch to the slug thrower railgun and knock them down.
If you are working with a bomber that's got the ion mines or whichever, or the interdiction, those do stack, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But just multiple ions from multiple gunships doesn't.
Right.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And then you slow them down with that, and then you switch to the railgun, the slug gun thrower.
Right.
And you knock them out with that. Okay.
And that's usually most effective on those scouts, just because it stops them from, or slows them down by 40%. So you stand a more chance of taking them out before they even get close to you.
Right. And you can sap some of their power out, so they can't hit their thrusters as much.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's their main defense and their main selling point is that they are fast and maneuverable. Right. So if you cut that out from under them, they're not left with much.
Right.
And then I did hear from various cantinas that they're working on new modes, new maps for Galactic Starfighter. So it sounds like they've still got a team in development working on that all the time. How big that team is, I have no idea. But the thing I was interesting is I did hear hints that they're maybe used for the stockpiled shipwreck sometime, hopefully soon, for incentives for those people like me and Dan who are sitting on. Well, I'm sitting on almost 400,000 shipwreck for my main ship,
Wow.
and I've already bought all the components. There's nothing I could convert it to cartel coins, but they'll cost me like 30,000 cartel coins.
Right.
So I was just curious what other people would like to see as incentives to keep playing the same kind of ships.
I was hoping we could use our rec points to help upgrade the guild capital ship
Oh, yeah.
as a way of, putting in towards the guild and doing like that. I couldn't think of what else, just something to use the points for. So I'm like him. I got ships where I literally just can't spend any more points on them.
The only way I can see as a feasible option is if they added a new tier of components in, either the same components but with another couple of options. So that'll cost, because the top tier at the moment costs 15,000, maybe they'd put one in for 30,000 or something.
Right.
Give you more options, more flexibility, or maybe just completely different set of options that you can purchase, something like that, or cool fire stripes going down the side of your ship for those who want it, or
Something.
even if it's cosmetic, just something to spend it on. It'd be nice.
Right. Yes, it would.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Did-
shipwreck to sit on. Go ahead, Red.
Did you say that you had heard that they were working on new maps, or that you're hoping that they are?
I had heard when I at the Phoenix canteen that I went to when I was speaking with Musco, he was saying, and this is just before the Denon Exosphere and death matches had already been announced, I think. So he's saying that there's always going to be continual development on that. It's going to be new maps, new modes, new ships, and I know that the new ship, that alleged stealther ship type, has been postponed, but it may come back again.
That's actually a question I'd love to get out of some hopefully near Community Cantina would be, since we've had the ship indefinitely postponed, when can we get another mode? Because that would be really nice at this stage, even if they use all the existing maps and just change them up, like the difference between Deathmatch and Dominion. I'd like to see another mode.
I think so, because some ships are great in Deathmatch and some ships are great in Dominion, but there's rarely one ship that works well in both. I mean, gunships do work, but if you're trying to level bombers, they're kind of hit and miss. I don't really like doing the bombers in the death matches, just because you have to fly right up so close to anyone to be so effective. I mean, I know which that's the case with the scouts and the strikes.
You can use. There's a few gimmicks that you can use on the two maps to basically bait them into because you've got to give them incentive to come after you. But if you can get them to come to you, then you can get yourself set up. There's a few little locations where you can hidey hole, and allow yourself to be in a position to, if your team knows that you're nesting there, then they can come in to get healed or get their ammo restocked or whatever. But it's true.
Right, and this is kind of
much
by doing
less
the solo
useful.
queues.
Yeah.
Like I said, group up. Even if you're solo queuing, everybody group up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well worth re-mentioning on the Harbinger. You can /C join imp GSF or /C join pub GSF. Just for a chat channel. There's always people in there saying, "Hey, anybody want to group up?" Because it is much better when you're grouped up.
For sure.
That's cool. Now, if someone's just starting out, would you recommend the Scout or the Strike Fighter?
I'd go straight to a gunship. It depends on the person and your line of play. I've busted out with a brand new gunship and I've had a little. You can have some immediate success with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't expect a
I think
lot,
so.
but you will participate significantly.
Right. And they may not have access to a gunship right away, but you suggest working towards one so they can try it out?
Yeah.
And I think with the scouts and the strike fighters, they're very kind of twitchy orientated, whereas if you're more of a hang at the back range DPS kind of person, then gunship's more for you.
Okay.
But if you're brand new to GSF, then all you've got is the strike or the scout fighter to start with, so you've got to build up those points or use cartel coins or the GTN to buy one of the alternative ships. But I
Yeah,
think
definitely play both of those because they're different enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And then if you're gonna unlock a gunship, get the Quarrel or the Mangler.
Yep.
No questions asked, and it is worth trying.
Yeah.
But I think you really need to try all of the ships just to kind of see what is the feel, what ship you feel you have more fun in. You may not
And-
be good at it to start with, but it's a steep learning curve. But stick with it; it's well worth it.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I was going to say. There's a real learning curve to it. Keep at it, and then one day it'll just kind of click with you. Especially when you start getting some consistent kills and you're figuring out what you're doing.
Okay. There was a
the other-
question. There was a question written in by Matherius, and Matherius writes, question, what is a good strike fighter that has healing probes and other utility applications?
I think this is for you, Red.
Yeah, there's only one.
Yeah.
I know it's called Clarion on the Republic side. Maybe the chat room can get us the Imperial version. That was something very new with the introduction of the Clarion, and Spear Point is a scout. But for the Strike Fighter, Clarion is the only one that has any kind of support utility. What's really fun about it, too, is... So I play Pike. Pike is my main, and I love it. But I really like being able to have one long-range, long lock-on missile type that then I can swap it, and I've got, real quick, snappy missile lock-on.
Mm-hmm.
And Pike is excellent for that. At the same time, the Pike has that missile EMP. So what I've done with my Clarion that I really like, you can go 100% support. You can get shield regeneration AoE for teammates. You can get the Nano Probe Cloud, which is a heal that hits everybody nearby you, and it's a hot that travels with them.
Nice.
And I feel like there might be a third ability. Oh, yeah, and you can get the EMP missile on it. So EMP missiles are the ones that disable when you get fully teched out. It shuts down all bombs and mines and everything for a certain amount of time. It actually instant destroys the mines and disables the drones. And when you tech it out, you can also disable the enemy's either ship regeneration for a certain amount of time or their ability to use ship components.
Wow.
So like they can't do a snap turn or a barrel roll or anything like that, and it also shuts down their ability for like a tactical targeting or whatever it's called. So damage boost abilities and stuff like that.
And also, if you're on the gunship, when you get hit by that, you can't switch from one railgun to another. It locks
Yes.
that ability down, so you're stuck on that component.
Right. And there's several other ships that have gun swaps.
Yeah, and any of the gun swaps. So any of the strike fighters, be it their weapon blaster type, or just like the Pike, it can swap between missiles. When they're hit by that, they cannot switch between missiles.
That's cool.
So, if you want to play that kind of support utility, totally go for it. And it's a really interesting ship to fly too.
Right, and unlike the bomber or the gunship, you're being a support, but you're also quite mobile,
Yes.
at least
Yes.
relatively.
No, it's true, and you've got a little bit more survivability too. So, I'm wondering if anyone in the chat room is actually. Doesn't look like it. Let me look that Imperial one up real quick. There we go. Imperial Strike Fighter.
I'm logging on to my Imperial character.
Yeah, I know it's not the Quell or the Ricer.
What type are we looking at? The Strike Fighters?
Yeah.
Yeah,
was it
okay.
called?
It's the Imperial ship is the FT-3C Imperium. And that will have, so just so that you know, it's called repair probes. All friendly ships within 4,500 meters will gain 75 hull strength, so a hot. You can also get the EMP missile, which is as I described it. your shield projector is under shields. So rather than having like a quick charge shield replenish or larger, or charged plating or reflective or whatever, you're going to have a shield projector, and that just does a quick channeled restoring 32% shield power over 6 seconds to your ship and 3 allies within 3,000 years.
That's cool.
So yeah, so it's really nice. It has for the cannons, it does not have the heavy cannons, but it still has quad lasers. So I think one of you mentioned that you prefer the quad laser to the heavy. Those two are actually both really good, and it does just depend.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to a strike fighter in particular, personal preference, choose quad or heavy, but in this case you're going to want to go with the quad laser cannons.
I like the quad when I have the option.
Yeah.
You don't have it on all the bombers.
Can we wrap it up?
Yeah.
We're all done.
All right. And is there any last things you want to say about Galactic Starfighter? Dan, let's start with you.
Ooh, I just want to emphasize again on what's it called? With the death matches.
Mm-hmm.
Please remember to group up. If you're on the lost shipyards, RD for the Republic D2, group up around that. There's a big structure there. You can hide your repair drones and different things inside of that, and that's where you should group up.
Use it like an automotive garage, and everyone who needs to heal just ducks into the structure.
Well, you can hide stuff around there, and then when they come around trying to hunt you down, you have missiles and whatnot can pop out when they aren't expecting it. There's lots of places you can hide your hang it me in words, your mines and your drones. That's what I was looking for. Thanks.
And just sneaky places to hide in where you can snipe at people as well when they're coming to you.
Oh, yes. Yes, and there's a comparable side that I'll get into on the Imperial side. There's a great little hidey hole that you can get into to snipe people. But we'll get into that on the next roundtable.
Okay. How about you, Dunadai? Any last words?
I'd just say, if you're new to Galactic Starfighter, keep at it, group up, find some people, friends that you want to play with that want to give it a go as well, because it's so much better if you can group up with people.
Yes.
If you've got voice chat, if you've got availability of voice chat, that makes it so much easier rather than trying to type in the game, because it's when there's so much action going on, the last thing I ever pay attention to is the chat box. But just that, and situational awareness applies to every single ship you're in. Always keep panning around if you're stationary. Just somehow I've just got this uncanny knack of, I know there's someone sneaking up on me, and I just happen to be turning around there they are, sniping, bang, they're gone. So situational awareness is just keep your eyes peeled. There's always going to be people coming for you,
Right.
especially if you're in a gunship, because they hate gunships.
I knew you had some kind of sixth sense or something there with them high kill counts you get. I knew it had to be something. The secret's out.
Right, and we do have the double bonus weeks for the next 2 weeks, so that'll be good. This is a good time to get into Galactic Starfighter, and I think I would say for new players is don't judge it by the first time you go out, because a brand new unupgraded ship is pretty weak. But even just a few upgrades, you'll notice a big difference in power and so on. Plus, you'll be getting used to the actual game and the mechanics and so on. And so don't necessarily judge it by the first time you go out, but give it a few tries, and then hopefully you'll like it by then.
I would suggest to even go for upgrading your minor components first. Match them up to what you want to your weapons to be. You can max those out without a whole lot of credits, and it gives you a lot more durability and resources. There's my big extra tip.
Awesome. That's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our
Utini Rage
Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then ask for the quiz that lets us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're on @UtiniCast. I Twitter under my own name @Brandon L. Starr, and Tio uses his name @Jason Etheridge. Dunadai Twitter's under @Dunadai4L. Dan Twitter's at Megadan66, and Red Twitter's at R3DN4, or you can watch him on twitch.tv/R3DN4. Check out our website, utinicast.com. which has links to our presence on Google Plus and Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher and Spreaker. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's Mevio. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you, Dunadai, Dan, and Red.
Had fun. Thanks.
Yep, thank you.
And we'll see you
Awesome
next week.
night.
Alright, guys, stop your recording now. Chat room, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Oh, wow. That was almost
Lively discussion. And will be, no doubt, fun editing. So anyway, we should be back next week. We're having a little break from our interviews, but there is at least one being planned, and hopefully more in the coming
Thanks
weeks.
again, Bacon, for that input, too.
Yeah, I think we
Thank
also
you,
have
Mr.
some,
Bacon.
right, because we have some summer stuff coming up, and it's kind of, everyone's schedule's a little up in the air.
Certainly is. Anyway, we'll see you next week.